you do that? How did you do that?
Welcome back everyone to another episode of All About Mechanics. Now today is going to be Veteran Maw of Lorkhaj. Of course, if you do this on normal, the mechanics are very similar, but on Veteran there's a couple of different things that can get quite complicated. The twins, being the second boss in the trial, are very complex for most groups and it's still very difficult for people to get past. I'm going to explain all of that. And of course, when it comes to all the ad pulls, everything is going to be explained. We're using a balanced group, 2 healers, 2 tanks, plenty of DPS in different areas, all giving different bonuses and buffs to the group. Which, again, your composition is up to you, but we are, of course, going to demonstrate the difference between the regular version of Veteran and, of course, the hard mode. And for those of you that have never seen it before, and for those of you that it's important for, we are also going to demonstrate Lunar. So, here we go. Best of luck and enjoy. Now, the first pull as you come into here is basic trash stuff. Tanks pull them in and you kill them. They're not a threat at all, but the ones you need to watch out for is what spawns next. There will be a Dreadstalker, a Shadow Guard, and a Sun Eater. Now, Sun Eaters are your primary focus. You must spread around them in a circle. Make sure there's plenty of room, because when they drop the negate on the ground, which does a lot of damage and negates your magic abilities, you will quite possibly kill many members in your group. So you have to make sure you spread out a bit so this doesn't land on everyone. Then once it's gone, get out of it and carry on. You must primary the Sun Eaters at all costs. Now, the next primary target, in my opinion, I know people do this a different way, should be the Shadow Guard. The Dreadstalker is very easy to turn around and stay out of his effects, but the Shadow Guard has a nasty spin every time he does a bash that you must block or stay out of. So what we've done in this particular group is we've stayed ranged, so every time he does that, he does a spin, and you're nowhere near it. If you get debuffed by a Savage and get caught by that circle, doesn't matter if you're blocking or not, you are dead. So to save any risk factor whatsoever, basically what we've done is we've made it so that the Shadow Guards are our primary focus after the Sun Eater. Again, the tanks have gone to one side to stack everything up, and we are all focused on the Sun Eater, and we're quite spread out. You can see there's a nice semicircle around this, so that if we do get a negate on us, it won't cover the entire group. Once it's down, deal with the ads as you can, and then go up to the bigger targets. These cats that are running around here, they do come from the archers. So if you get overwhelmed, don't kill the cats, kill the archers. If you kill the archers, their pets will die. Also, if you get deaths, that will happen as well. But again, as you can see, we are focusing as much as possible on that Shadow Guard and stacking the archers on top of him. Now, if you get overwhelmed with cats, of course, focus the archers to get rid of them, but stay away from that Shadow Guard. That spin, every time he does a bash, is going to wreck the group. If you don't block it, you're dead. If you're debuffed and you do block it, you're still dead. So stay away from it. Again, just to recap on the initial fight that you saw at the beginning of the trial, we do keep away from those. Tank holds it still, we hit it, no problem there at all. Now, again, this pull is quite nasty. Sun Eaters always first. Now, both tanks have gone to the left there to grab all the ads and stack them on the stairs. But there is a Savage in the group. Now, the Savage is a two-hander. It's got some wicked frontal effects, so you must stay out of his face unless you are, of course, the tank holding it still. And try and pull it to one side. You can see it's off to our right there, just behind the group. If that was in the group, the tank that is debuffed will get hit by the archers, will get hit by the Shadow Guard, and then will die. So we're spread out, get rid of him, and we only pull him in just as the rest of the enemies are about to die, and then we'll finish him off for there. You don't want to double stack damage, because otherwise you're going to start losing tanks. As you can see, we stay behind the enemies at all times, especially those archers, because the spray that they put in front of them is very dangerous if you get caught. There is room to get in the gaps, but not everybody can do that, so just be careful. Again, priority target, we're going to stick with that one. Sun Eater first, definitely. Shadow Guard also should be very important. Now, the first boss is very simple, but can end in mayhem. There are many pads around the room, and they are on long timers. If you pick one up, it will be a long period of time before it is replaced again. And these are used as cleanse pads. As you can see, there are plenty around the room, and what we've done was tried to put 2 people on each pad. We don't stand on them, but we remember where they are. Now, as you can see here, I'm on one. There's one in the middle to the front of me, and there's one at the far end. We've done the 2 left and right ones as the healer pads and the one in the middle as the tank. The tank pad will be shared with the 2 tanks. So if one is cursed, they will take the pad and the tank will take the boss, and they'll swap and swap and swap until the fight is over. The healer pads, however, are for the healers only, but if there is a DPS on that pad with them, basically they'll just call the healer's name, and if they can take it, if they're not cursed, they'll say yes or no. If they're cursed, stay there for up and emote and say hello, and someone will have to res you. If they're not cursed, you go and take it and cleanse yourself. If you are cursed, by the way. Now, there are checkpoints on this boss for kind of DPS checks. When it gets to 70% and 30%, your group needs to come in a bit. Make sure you're still in a semicircle or a circle, and do not overlap. You will all take damage every 1 second in a burst AoE, and if you overlap the circles, you will die. This is the part where the healers should really focus. Make sure you've got your damage mitigation coming out from the tanks or the healers as well, and just focus your DPS on that shield. As you'll see in a moment, he'll throw up a big damage shield, there'll be loads of crystals spinning around it, and we'll all take damage. And you just have to break through that in order to continue the fight. The rest of the fight, however, as you can see, there are pillars around the room, big blue pillars. Every time he slams his weapon on the ground, he will release one of those out of the ground based on where players are standing. This is why we have to be quite close, because the further away you are, the more likely it is to spawn at the back of the room. Why is this important? Because if he prays, which he will do after 5 pillars to start with, you will all have to hide behind it. Otherwise, the explosion that emits from him will kill you. So, you have to make sure you can see where they are, and they're all close. As you can see here, hide behind the pillars. There are some to the left, some to the right, but if you go too far, you have to run too far and you'll never make it. It's a one-shot. Now, also during the fight, apart from the damage shields, apart from the curses and the cleansers, and apart from those pillars, there are also cats that come in the room every 20%. So it will happen at 80%, 60%, 40, and 20. Those need to be controlled by the off-tank or the main tank, pulled in, and you should focus them down, get rid of them. As you saw here, I was cursed. I didn't spread my AoE onto anybody else. I ran and cleansed. Now, if I'd have called for the healer, and said his name, then he would have just said yes or no. The reason for that is if he's cursed, I can't take that pad because we need the healer. If he's not cursed, I can go and take it. If I am cursed and he is cursed and he takes it and I can't, I just throw up a hello and someone's going to have to resurrect me. Simple as that. Now, again, 30%, there's another damage shield phase. This is where you have to burn through it again. Bring everybody in, don't stack up. Heavy heals, heavy mitigation, heavy focus on damage. Now, the pillars are in several stages. First stage will be 5 pillars, then 4, then 3, then 2, then 1, and then none. If you don't kill the boss by the time there's no pillars, you're all dead. So this does require a damage amount, but again, it's incredibly low. There's not a massive amount required, but what you do need to focus on is keeping everybody alive, because of course, the longer the fight goes on, the more likely you are to fail. And if you're spending loads and loads of time resurrecting people, that makes the fight longer. So it's more about focus as a group, staying alive and keeping on top of what you're doing, rather than actually just nuking it. Yes, of course you can do that, but that's not your primary focus. Your primary focus is survival. If you can stay up, you can kill it. If you can't stay up, you're going to run out of time. So, again, 20% stage, we've got more cats, which is every 20, so 80, 60, 20, 40, 20. You've got 2 options here, depending on your group. You can either nuke the boss and finish him, or focus on the mechanics, kill the cats, hide behind the pillars, and carry on as normal. As you saw then, I was cursed. After a time, I would then end up exploding, but the boss was so low health that it was pretty much execute it, we're good. That can change depending on your group, however. So just bear in mind that mechanics are, of course, key. So just to recap over that, cats are every 80, 60, 40, and 20%. Shield phase, so come in a bit, take the heals, and do so much damage as possible at every 70 and 30%. And the rest of the time, keep an eye on those pillars, don't go out too far, don't be selfish with the cleanse pads, and don't spread the curses. Always hide when he does his burst mechanic. Now these adds here are very important. As you can see here, there's an ogre shaman. He is primary. Get him down, he buffs targets, and he's really horrible, so get him down. Then, of course, we have a Sun Eater here, plus lots and lots of other adds. Now, one tank will take the Savage away from the group, so it doesn't actually cleave everybody and give them a debuff. And the rest of us, as you can see, there's a circle of us around the Sun Eater to try and get it down, because you don't want to stack with Sun Eaters. Now, that group is very well stacked. The Savage is actually in the group, but turned away, so nobody's actually going to get hit by anything at the same time as that. And we are going to focus the Shadow Guard. Again, we stay away from him, because not everyone's capable of blocking. Some people might be debuffed. You want to make sure that he doesn't one-shot everybody. There was enough damage to take down the archers as well, but if you don't have that, and you don't have loads of AoE, don't panic. Just make sure you prioritize those targets. Once a Shadow Guard is down, everything is a lot easier. Now, the Savage obviously goes last because of the debuff. It's really nasty, so he always has to be singled out to one side. You can stack and burn him in the group, but it is risky. The next pull, you're now going to meet a new enemy called a Flesh Renderer. These come in with the Shamans. The Shaman will buff them, so you must make sure the Shaman dies. But above all, these Flesh Renderers must be interrupted at all costs. The interrupt mechanic is so fast, you don't always have enough time to react. So if you're a stamina DPS or a tank, you need to be bashing inside your rotation. And if you are a mag DPS, you need to make sure that Crush and Shock is coming out of you left, right, and center. Make sure that above all, no matter how good you think you are with your DPS, that you are constantly interrupting. If you don't, he will knock everybody across the room, and you'll be laying down on the ground, unable to break CC quick enough, and you will take damage over time very, very fast and die. So make sure they're always interrupted. Here again, priority targets. Our tanks have gone off to the left to pull the adds together, and we must focus the Sun Eater. Now, just bear in mind, by the way, the negate bubble doesn't only negate your magic abilities, but it will also take away your ultimates if you fire them. So if I have a banner down on the ground that she puts a negate bubble on my head, she will remove it. So do not drop your ultimates on them if you can help it, unless they're very fast-paced burst ultimates, and then that's a different story entirely. Again, of course, your next priority target is the Shadow Guard. He's really, really nasty. He does shield assault sometimes to hit people in the group, knocks them down, and then he'll do a wicked flip if he's too close to you. You have to be very, very careful of this. So just bear in mind all the time to try and keep your distance from those, or be ready to block if you're too close. Once he's down, of course, and the archer's down, Savage is last. Do also, as much as possible, apply any area of effect that you've got to help get those archers down fairly fast while you're killing the Shadow Guard, because you don't want to get overwhelmed with cats. If there are too many at any point in time, just remember you can kill the archer to get rid of them. Now this is really tricky. The tank has gone off to the left to pull in the Flesh Renderer while we focus this Shaman as fast as possible. You must kill this Shaman. In the meantime, that Flesh Renderer needs to be interrupted. So although your main focus is the Shaman at that point, your mechanical focus needs to be on this Flesh Renderer. If he goes red, he's going to start doing some nasty effects and knock out the group. You must keep interrupting him at all costs. Next pull is another Dramathra type pull. Again, we've got another Sun Eater. Don't drop your ultimates on her if you can help it, unless they're bursty. And look, as you can see, again, formation wise, semicircle around her. If she drops a negate bubble, she won't get us all. That really, really helps. The archer obviously takes AoE damage based on where he is, but again, our primary focus is this Shadow Guard. Now, you want to try to save your ultimates if you can, unless of course you're a Dragonite and you're using it for resources, or if perhaps it's a Warhorn or a Nova, because they do really, really help. Because you're going to want as much damage as possible on the next pull, because it can get really, really nasty. So, Shadow Guard is down, now to focus on the Savage, which has been deliberately again turned away from the group. Fire has not aimed it at the group at one stage at all so far. So you have to be very, very careful to always turn it away. That debuff is evil. And this is where you want your ultimates, because this Shaman and Flesh Renderer together, and another one, are evil. You have to make sure that your group has split up onto two targets now and constantly interrupting, or have your tanks with massive stamina just constantly bashing into them. Otherwise, you are pretty much screwed. As you can see here, this is a very successful stack. We've got lots of AoE damage, we've got lots of mitigation, and people are all focusing on bashing. If you can't do that, do one at a time. Bring the Shaman in on his own and take the two Flesh Renderers to one side, so your tanks split up, and then bring them in bit by bit. Again, as we've seen before, Sun Eater is a primary target. Yes, we do have a Shaman and a Flesh Renderer at the back there. They are very important, so they are of course next, but that Sun Eater must go. If you don't get rid of it while you're taking time to try and interrupt this guy, you're going to get a negate bubble on your head. You don't want a negate bubble and a Shaman and a Flesh Renderer and a Dreadstalker all at once. You've got to get them down in order. So Sun Eater first, then these guys, and then finish off what's left. What you're seeing now, however, is a blue mark target effect on me. That is when the cats have decided to chase me. When they do that, they will be red. That means that the tank can't actually taunt them off me. The cats can't be taunted anyway. They can be CC'd, but they can't be taunted. They won't listen. When that happens, don't bother trying to run away. Just make sure you've got plenty of heals and try and survive. That is when you really want to focus on the archers, because it means someone's about to get nuked by the cats. If there's one, you're not too bad. If there's two, it's going to hurt. If there's three, kill the archer quick. This one's a nasty, nasty pull. As you can see, we had a Sun Eater right there, and we've got one at the back. So this is when your group needs to coordinate and decide which one they're going to hit first. Don't have half on one and half on another. Focus one at a time. As you can see again, same formation. Always a circle around the Sun Eater so people don't get caught in that negate together. This pull over here, however, is quite rough. You've got two Shadow Guards. You do need to focus these. Stay away as much as you can. Range DPS it if you have to. Nip in and out if you've got melee stuff, of course, but make sure you understand the mechanics enough to be able to time when you can go in and when you need to be out. Failing that, play it safe. This whole group right now is playing it safe. Nobody got nuked. Nobody really took any damage. Nobody got caught by that wicked spin. as a tank or as a group, remember that spin happens after the Shadow Guard does a bash at the enemy that he has decided he wants to hit. Now things get tricky. These are the twins, and this is the bane of most people's existence when it comes to this particular trial. It can be done very simply, or it can be done really, really complicated. Now, one of the methods that we're going to show you is not something you necessarily have to do, but I'm going to try and simplify it as much as I can. There are two bosses, one yellow, one blue. Doesn't matter about their names, unless you want to remember their names and take them out for dinner. There's one yellow and one blue. Two groups of us, 6 and 6. Now, we are hitting the blue one first. He's the hardest one to do damage to because of how his mechanics are. But basically, you need to stay close to your target at all times. And this way, you will get your initial color. As you can see, this group has got yellow, that group has got blue. Now, the tanks will swap bosses. Why is this? Because you can only properly damage, the boss of an opposite color to your head. Yellows hit the blue, blue hit the yellow. There's an ad at the beginning of each phase as well, and the longer the fight goes on, the less health they have, the more ads spawn in each phase. As you can see, the blue one drops in a gate bubble, so the tank has to shimmy along the wall to just place those nice and carefully along the edges rather than leaving them in the middle of the room, hence why we're tanking it here. Now comes the next mechanic. As you can see, he is praying. That is when conversions are going to happen and 3 people from each side will change color. You must run to the other side and join the other team if you are one of the ones changing color. If you touch someone of an opposite color, they will go boom. You're about to change, get out of there and go to the other side. Our 3 on this side did it, their 3 on that side did it. Now we're blue and now they're yellow. That is what is known as the conversion phase. As you can see, of course, the tanking is done slightly different. The yellow one's always held in the middle and the blue one's always held on the side where we can put the negate bubble. It's very important now that when they teleport, they could go either way. He could be a yellow here or he could be a blue. We never want to be with the same color boss. So we need to swap sides. But initially, when the tanks started, they taunted one boss. Fire tanked the yellow boss, Miles tanked the blue boss, and then they swapped. They are going to be looking for their original bosses now when this phase comes up because there's a big explosion and everyone loses their colors. So, the boss that each tank initially taunted is the one they're going to look for and run to. Nobody else has to do this, just the tanks. So if Fire was with the yellow boss originally, and currently he's with the blue one, he needs to find that yellow one and run to it as quick as possible. And Miles has to do the same. They always look for their original boss. Then, they taunt the opposite one over the line without swapping sides once they've got their color, and resume the fight as normal. Now, that may sound a little tricky, but if you're a DPS or a healer, that doesn't affect you. If you're a tank, that's something that you're going to have to learn. Again, the yellow boss is back in the middle, the blue boss is on the side. We've got yellow heads, we've got the blue boss, they've got blue heads, they've got yellow boss. Simple as that. Now, again, early phase of the fight when we swap sides is that the ads will be coming into the room. This is where you want multiple DPSs using Silver Leash, or maybe your tanks can do it. Depends on how your group is set up. Just bear in mind, of course, it is a CC effect and it takes 6 seconds for it to wear off before you can pull them again. They must be focused. Again, conversions, swap sides, join the other group. Your primary focus now, apart from conversions, swap or stay, and your tank's originals, is you must always kill the ads and you must always interrupt the yellow targets because they do a Jesus beam and they really, really hurt. Now, the bosses are going to teleport, but this time, the boss stayed with us. It's the yellow one this time, not the blue one. Now, he's the one we want to hit. He's not the same as us. So instead of switching sides this time, we stay. The only thing that needs to be different is when the room goes boom, the tanks, again, need to look for the one they first ever taunted in the fight. When the room goes bang, run to it, get their color, and then taunt the opposite boss to swap them over. As you can see, Fire just came straight in from the right there, got his color by hugging the boss, and now he's taunting the other one over the line and putting him in position. This is rinse repeat over and over and over and over and over. The lower the health of the bosses, the more ads you will get per phase. As you can see now, we've got another phase and there are more and more ads. Now, the blue ones must be pulled to here and dealt with. The yellow ones, you can taunt them or pull them to the other side and deal with them with the other team. Do not make these overlap because it gets really messy. Alongside following the mechanics, I would highly recommend that you always save your ultimates for the ads, especially at later phases in the fight, because you are going to need more and more damage as the room gets more and more chaotic. Now, as you'll see here, I didn't have to convert this time because my color didn't change. And the blue boss is still on this side, so I'm opposite to him. I don't need to move, and neither does the group. But as the big boom goes up, both tanks look for their original taunted bosses and run to them before the colors are given out. Now we've got our colors, and the tanks will taunt the other boss over the line and bring them to them. So I'm now on a different side. Now this is key. When these are low health, pace your damage and try and get them as even as possible while controlling the hell out of these ads. Yellows must be interrupted a lot because of the Jesus beams. Purges must be coming because of the reflective lights. And the blue ones must be clustered up as much as possible to make sure that the ball effects don't come across this side. It's very important that you interrupt those ones and keep the other ones clustered up and turned away from the group. This is where your ultimates come in. Use your ultimates on the ads, not the bosses. This is one of your most hectic phases, so put as much mitigation and damage output as you can while keeping people alive. Just bear in mind, of course, conversion phases are very important and you must still pay attention to them. I got converted, I move across, I now hit the opposite color ads and opposite color boss. Always hit the opposite. If you're in doubt, look for the team that's got the same color head as you. Now, the bosses are relatively similar in their actual health at the moment. As you can see, that's the same as us, swap sides. You don't want to be the same boss as the same color as your head. They're quite low health, but the blue one's got a bit more than the other one, so pace it on the yellow one, focus the ads, and then go for the kill afterwards. So if you do get this low and you're not sure you can finish it, just focus on the ads and don't touch the bosses at all. Or if you think you can do it, this is where it gets really tricky. You need to finish off one boss, then get all the tanks and healers or pullers or whatever you've got to get those ads out of the way while you finish the boss. As you can see, there's two waves of ads there. There's one wave to the start of the fight of this lap, and there's another wave because it's execute. So we had 8 ads in the room there. The tanks should turn them all away from the group as much as possible. So to recap, this is complicated, I know. To recap, you must, of course, make sure that when conversions come up, you swap sides, go clockwise, it's easier. 3 people from each side with a color under them must join the other team. When the bosses teleport, check which one you've got. If it's the same color as you, clockwise around the room and swap sides. If it's a different color to you, the one you were already hitting, stay where you are. When the explosion goes off, the tanks need to look for their original boss and run to it. They've got no color now, they won't blow anybody up, just run. And then make sure they taunt the other boss over the line once they've got their color, and then position them wherever they need to. Above all, always kill the ads and do not panic. Keep your purges up, keep your heals up, don't panic. Put multiple people on Silver Leash to help with the ads if you have to, but if you get really good at it, your tank should be able to manage it. Now this fight here is a lot of fun, but be careful. The 2 big cats up there cannot be taunted. If you get a blue mark on you, you are the one that's being hunted and you need to run like hell. It helps if you go clockwise and everybody focuses one cat or the other. That way you can keep on top of it, they run through your dots and all that good stuff. During this phase, after a few seconds, they will swap onto somebody else and they must run as well. If you are the person running, do not slow down, do not look back, because if they touch you, you're dead. It's a guaranteed one shot. If that cat touches you while you're marked, you are a corpse. So if it comes to you, either it's glowing red, that's a very good sign. If it's glowing red, it's on you. Or you've got the blue beam above your head, which is also a very good sign as well. Make sure you do not stop running. Again, don't panic too much. Try and coordinate it into a clockwise rotation or anti-clockwise, whichever you prefer. As long as your group can agree on which way you're going to run, it's a lot easier to apply your damage to that target while it's on the move. As a DPS, however, you might want to apply some damage in front of the target so they run through the dots. And as a tank, I know you can't taunt them, but it does help to debuff them with a pierce armor. Now, this phase here, there was a chain above our head, and there's one on the other side as well for another group of ads. This will be several waves of enemies, and they should be treated the same as every other ad wave that you've come up to so far. Sunny is first, Shadow Guard second, Dreadstalkers third, and then the Savages last. But if you kill one before the other ever so slightly earlier, it doesn't really matter. It's not the end of the world, as long as you stay out of those nasty spins from the Shadow Guards. It's a bit tricky sometimes to position them all, but as long as that Savage is out of the group, you should be just fine. If in doubt, of course, just stay away from the Shadow Guard and kill him from range. There are multiple waves here, and if you do fail, by the way, this is kind of like a boss fight. You will have to start the entire wave all over again, including the cats, so don't die. That Shadow Guard went for a heavy attack on me then, but I did see it coming, so I got to dodge roll it. Be very aware of that. If it's not quite tagged by the tank yet, make sure that you're paying attention to his actions so that you don't get wrecked. Again, as you can see there, we had to take out the Sun Eater first, then we focus the Shadow Guard, then we deal with the rest of the enemies. Yes, of course, the archers do take a considerable amount of damage during the fight anyway, so they may die before the Shadow Guard, but it's not the end of the world if that happens. In fact, sometimes it's a little bit of a help because it loosens up some of the trash from the cats as well. Again, remember the cats can be CC'd, but they cannot be taunted. They will just run around hitting whoever they feel like. Next wave again, this is a double wave, so this looks like you're safe, and then all of a sudden Sunny is coming into the room. Again, focus the Sunny up first, then deal with the Shadow Guard and the archers. You can see they're being nicely stacked there, so we've got plenty of AoE. But watch your ultimates, because as you saw there was an ultimate thrown on the Sun Eater, and she put a negate on top of the group, which removed the ultimate. So be very careful of that. Stay in the gaps of the archers if they're firing arrow sprays, and keep your face out of the Savage's cleave. Also be aware, of course, we have gone over this already, each Sun Eater fight, your group should be in some form of circle and or semicircle around the target to make sure that the negate bubble, which will be random, is placed on not too many people at once. That can be very, very risky, so just be aware of that. Now, just like the other side, up the ramp, there is one of our players pulling a chain, which is exactly how we pulled the last ad pull, and now we've got a whole new one. Again, you can see here the Sun Eater is straight in the middle. You must focus her down as soon as possible, while the tanks position everything else. Get that Savage out of the group, and make sure that everything is pulled together and nicely stacked. You can now focus on the archers once the Sun Eater is down, and then the Savage after. You can either bring it into the group, or just leave it to one side and deal with it separately. But the next couple of pulls in here are going to be really, really tricky. You're not only going to have Sun Eaters and Savages and Archers and that kind of stuff, you are going to have a couple of Shadow Guards, especially towards the last pull. And two of them is really hard to manage, so make sure your tanks are very quick at taunting these. You've got a Shadow Guard in the middle there, you've got a Sun Eater at the back, and one to the left as well. Agree on which one you're going to focus on first. Again, do not stack, because that will happen and everyone will get caught by the negate. Make sure that you stay spread out. You do not want two negates on the group. As you can see, there's almost three. One is about to wear off, but there was three in the room then. It's really, really risky. You must pay attention. The Shadow Guards have obviously been pulled to one side with the Savage, but as you can see then, our tank got hit by the Savage and the Shadow Guard at the same time, which is basically insta-death. You got to make sure that one tank does one and one tank does the other. Split those guys up if you can, or at least turn them away so you don't get caught by both abilities. Again, very simply, stay away from the Shadow Guards if you are not comfortable, and kill them from range. This is a double landing. This one's tricky. Drop your ultimates right away. That way you'll get plenty of damage on the Sun Eaters when they land. There are two of them. I know I said don't drop ultimates on them. Don't drop ultimates on them when they are alive. Drop ultimates when they're about to spawn if you can see them coming, and that will give you a bit of a head start. As you saw then, they got pretty much nuked. That can be quite successful, but again, don't drop them once they're there. When they're gone, deal with the remaining group. Of course, Shadow Guards are primary after Sun Eaters are dead. I've said that so many times, but I can't say it any clearer. You must make sure that you don't get caught by that spin. Now, of course, since this was kind of a boss fight, we do get loot at the end, just like on the massive ad pull with the flesh renderers. You will get points for it as well. So if we do fail any of those ad pulls whatsoever and you wipe, it's a restart, just like any normal boss fight. Straight from the cats. Now this room is what I like to call the wipe room, or the wipe corridor. This is where I tend to put any stamina DPS on Caltrops duty. So the south of the room and the north of the room, well, technically east and west. So the front of the corridor and the back. You want to make sure that every 12 seconds your stamina DPS are placing a nice middle kind of area casted Caltrops, because there are bombers jumping off the side running into the room. If you have Caltrops down, not only will it kill them, but it will slow them right down so people don't get insta-wiped by those bombers. If you don't have Caltrops down, people will take one-shots. So make sure that your stamina DPS are constantly keeping those up while doing their rotations on the primary targets. Remember, Sun Eaters first. The one that you just saw on the right there as we came in will be there again on the next phase, but there's also another one coming as well, so we do have to deal with two at a time on a couple of occasions here. These are what usually kill the group. So you'll have a Savage at the back while the bombers are coming in. The tank will get debuffed by the Savage. The bombers will then hit them and they will die. So you must keep up the Caltrops either side of the corridor to prevent that, and you must still remember your primary targets. Keep your dots down at all times. There's a Sun Eater here on the left as we came in. Focus this one first. Stay in a semicircle, spread out. Don't get clustered into a corner where that negate can land on the whole group. Keep the Savage away from everyone, otherwise it's going to debuff them. And then again, focus on your primary targets. There is a Sun Eater to the right now, same place as it spawned last time, but obviously we have to get rid of them one at a time. Keep your caltrops running if you're stamina DPS, and tanks try to keep everything fairly well packed so that the room doesn't turn into chaos, while the DPS stay in a semicircle and deal with the Sun Eaters. Once the Sun Eaters are gone, it's pretty straightforward, but if they're in the room, you're dead. As you saw, our tank then got whooped because a bomber came in while wrecked by the Savage and everything clustered up at once. That is something that will happen to your entire group over and over and over until you get used to this pull. It's not an easy corridor to fight in, and yes, of course, every time you fail this, it will start again. 2 more Sun Eaters. The one that we're closest to now we're going to take. Everyone should be focusing it. Make sure you stay spread around it in case it drops a negate, as it just did there. In the meantime, make sure your caltrops as staminas are still running. You can put Purify down as a Templar or any other AoE based ground stuff that you have to try and help with it, but the more snares and damage over time you have on the ground, the better, because it stops people getting nuked. As you can see there where our Templar is at the back there, he is in prime location for a bomber to get him, so you got to make sure that the caltrops is down. That one that just ran up to me pretty much died a little bit too close. That was a bit uncomfortable. Now, once the Sun Eaters are down, again, you've heard me say this multiple times already, I can't repeat it enough, primary focus is the Shadow Guards first, then everything else. If you get overwhelmed by cats in this situation, of course, it's up to you what you do. You can primary those archers, but maintain calm. You must keep up your dots on the ground. You must keep up your snares and caltrops and all that stuff. Otherwise, if you start thinking too much about what's going to kill you, you're going to forget about those bombers. Now, this is the last boss, which I'm going to show in multiple stages, including the hard mode variation, including the run-in, including Lunar. We're going to show you everything, and I'm going to show you a very, very handy tactic about how to control your situation or group in terms of formation. I'm going to show you a way that hasn't necessarily been used that much, if at all, because not everyone looks at it the same way as I do, I guess. But hopefully this will help you coordinate as a group and make things a little bit easier. Just note, by the way, inside that room there were 2 pads, one left, one right. If you stand on them and activate them, you can turn hard mode on. If you press it again, you turn hard mode off. Now, there are 8 pads around the room. Assign each one of your DPS to a pad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. The middle pad is for the 2 tanks and the 2 healers, and this is important for Lunar. Make sure everybody knows their place. That is going to make a lot more sense later, but it's also very, very important. Now, the boss will start in the middle and then move to this pad, and he will move clockwise around the room. The pad will go gold, which means only the tank will be allowed to stand on it, because they will get a buff which will protect them from Rakkhat's one-shots as long as they block. If anyone else stands on the pad, they will steal his buff. Then, when the boss wants to move, the tank needs to move to the next pad as it turns gold, in position ready for the boss to move to the next one. Every time you move to the next pad, the old one will go dark blue, and if you stand on it, you will get a nasty, nasty curse and die. The blue curses in this particular fight have 2 rules. 1, you'll take a debuff, you won't take big heals, and you'll take damage over time. 2 touches of it, you die. So, if you get cursed by anything for any reason, don't touch any blue pads. Now, when it first comes into the fight, of course, we are going to be able to put down loads of damage where he is, but he's going to do a wicked jump in the air, and I will explain that as we go, showing you what you should or shouldn't stand on. But now I'm going to show you about formation. This is very important. Look at this circle here, and you can see there are multiple triangles in sections around the circle. Every time you switch to the next pad, this is where you want your DPSs and your tanks to be, while the rest of the group are in a similar semicircle behind you. Not too close, not too far away. Every single time you switch from one pad to the next, everybody at the front circle get your position. If you follow that, you will be in a perfect position for every single pad to not be a problem, as far as meteors, bombs, and also blocks are concerned. That is going to make a lot more sense while we get around the room, but just bear that in mind for the time being. You won't need to worry about it on the first pad, but 2 all the way up to 8, remember your position and literally coordinate like a unit. You must work together with this. The reason the tank is in the middle, because he can hold the ad there, which we're going to get to, and the reason the DPS are there is because everyone can reach, yet everyone's out of each other's way. Now, on the first pull, of course, the boss is going to be able to be damaged in this position. Do not stand on that pad, because when he jumps up into the air and lands again, you can see that the pad is now blue. Do not touch that. If you touch that, you will be cursed. You will have a healing debuff. You won't be able to cleanse it because the four corners have cleanse pads that you're not specifically supposed to touch there for the runners. The gold pad, as you can see, the tank is on it. The tank is glowing gold, and he is now protected with a buff. No one touch that pad. Now, there are several mechanics to look out for. When he jumps and flaps, he'll do a heavy attack, and everyone must block. When he does this and he's firing a machine gun at the tank needs to keep up damage shields, blocks, heals, absorb magic or shimmering shield, depending on what class or setup you are. Anything to protect you from that, just like Lord Wardens. And also, when he raises his hands, meteors will be coming down. Front circle, stay in your formation. Second circle, stay in your formation. But 2 people from the back need to be assigned as kiters and just run backwards as fast as possible. Not actually backwards, but turn around and run away. Now, as the second pad finishes, there will be shadows in the middle of the room that will basically simulate that there are shadows in the back room, in the backyard if you want. That is when your runners need to go. You can have 2 or 3 or even more if you really feel like it, but people need to run out the back and go left, right, and middle. And there are 2 in each phase. Left, there are 2, right, there are 2, and the middle, there are 2, and you have to find them by taking these synergies. But you will be attacked by void assassins, so you have to make sure that you can kill them and you can survive. If you touch the blue orbs, they do a lot of damage, so be careful. One very important point, by the way, you will have to do some jumps occasionally, which are quite tricky, and the assassins will snare you, so don't jump while you are debuffed by those. And if you find a void caller, you need to kill it. It's only got 1 health, you just hit it and it's gone. That will get rid of one of the shadows in the middle of the room in the other side where the boss is. Now, if you take these synergies, try to stay as close to the little section as possible, because otherwise if you run too fast while taking the synergy, you'll overshoot the area and you won't actually reveal the shadow. Once you've done your side, you need to get out. Now, if there's 2 of you, it helps if you can get 1 left and 1 right, and then both of you do 1 in the middle. If you've got 3 of you, do 1 left, 1 right, 1 middle. Once all the shadows have been found and killed, the group will tell you that they're dead, or you'll know that they're dead, and you have to run back through the gate again. Now, we are cursed, so you have to be very careful. On hard mode, if we stand near anyone, we will shoot them basically with uncontrollable machine gun shots, which will kill them, so don't stand near your group. And of course, on hard mode, you can't cleanse. So you've got 2 options: stay away from people, or get killed, get rezzed, and then carry on again. But you have to be quick. On the regular mode, where it's just a regular vet, you can see that there's a cleanse pad in the corner and 2 blue circles to left and right. Don't touch the blue stuff, make sure you're cleansed. But that boss was then jumping, so if he is doing that, make sure you block. Otherwise, as you saw there, I would have fell into that stuff. Now, during that phase, while we're at the back, pad 2 is finished. The Hulk is still alive. He comes up at pad 2, 4, 6, and 8, so he has to die. We are now moving on to the next pad. This is your burn pad, basically. You're here for a long time while the runners are at the back. But this is the hard mode demonstration. On both modes, you have these bombs, which are now going to appear from underneath my feet. A lot of people try to run away with this. We don't do that in our group. Because of our formation, we have decided to stand still. How does that work? Based on how we're standing, if a bomb goes off with one of us, it's not going to touch us. It's not going to reach. So instead of running to the side of the room and losing time on the boss, we stay where we are. If you're standing next to someone that has this, simply block when it explodes or just move slightly away to your left or right, and you'll be safe. These blue orbs are what you need to block, but if you've got plenty of heals coming in and loads of resistances, they won't hurt you. Now, the Hulks are important because if they hit the tank with 2 smashes, they will end up dead on the next one, so you have to be careful, and the tanks will have to swap them backwards and forwards until they're dead. In the meantime, as you saw there, 2 assassins just came in. Why is that? The assassins come in because the shadows are being killed at the back. Every 2 shadows will give you 1 assassin. The tank will have to taunt them in from the middle, and we have to kill them in AoE or single target, whichever works. As you saw there, he did a spin. That needs to be blocked. If you don't block the spin from these guys, they will knock you backwards, just like the boss will if you don't block his jump. So, to help yourselves every single phase, be sure to kill the Hulk as soon as possible, and then when these assassins come in every time 2 shadows are killed out the back, make sure you kill those. Now, going back to the previous pad where we were after the runners phase, we're going to pad 4. The Hulk is going down gradually, the boss is now jumping, and he's moving to pad 5. There's no extra ads here, we've gone past this phase, so pad 4 is just a bit of a burn, pad 5, runners, off you go again. Now, this is where mechanics change a bit. Now we get tethers. These are done in 2 ways. Some people like to run them out of the group while trying to stay alive. We have actually opted to stack with these. And the reason we've done that is because we have pumped up our mitigation, as much spell resistance as possible, massive heals, barriers, damage shields, and of course all of my stamina DPS have been told to throw out a vigor every 10 seconds to help with the healing. And as you can see, we can successfully stack with these and they won't cause a problem. You will still have to block, you will still get meteors, you will still get machine gun on the tank, you'll still get ads on hard mode, you'll still have to manage those. But if you stack with those in your formation and you keep your heals up, you can survive. But how you deal with them is up to you. Basically, we just mitigated and healed like crap, and it worked really, really well. Now, you have to make sure you get rid of them by the time you go on to the next pad, obviously, because we've got another Hulk. Remember, Hulks are at pad 2, 4, 6, and 8. They have quite a bit of health. You do want to focus them, and if a tank has been hit by them twice with a special attack, they have to swap with the other tank. You have to let the other tank taunt it. Now, pad 7, we have another mechanic, this big ball. This will land on random players and explode under their feet and then disappear after a few seconds. Try to move away from them. When it goes boom, come back in again. Or if you're feeling really lucky and your group has lots and lots of damage mitigation, like we normally do, you can of course out-heal this. Remember, you will still have to block the boss when he jumps and flaps, and you will still have to watch out for meteors, so your kiters will have to be on point with this. Every time the meteors are called, you will have to run away to get them away from the group while the rest stay in formation. Pad 8, you'll get a Hulk, but we'll skip that part because you know how to kill a Hulk anyway. And now everyone needs to find their pad, and don't stand on it until it is gold. Now, once they're all gold, every DPS goes to their assigned pad. There's 1 to 8. The 2 tanks in the middle will be taking synergies to beam the enemies in order to get the resistances down so they can die faster. But we can only use 3 or 4 beams at a time. So what we've done is instead of using all 4 or just 2 or just 1, we've decided to use 3. 1 healer is going to be healing people as their health goes down. 1 tank is going to be beaming. The other tank is going to be beaming. And the other healer is going to be beaming as well. So tank number 1 is going to beam in order. Number 1, number 2, and number 3. They will aim at the target and hit a synergy, and they will be weakened. After that is finished, they'll move on to the next, and so on and so forth. Tank number 2 will beam number 4, number 5, and number 6 in that order. And the healer will beam number 7, then number 8, and then whatever is left. That is very important to do it in order from left to right based on whatever one of those you are. And at the same time, it is important that everyone pays attention to the ad that they have assigned to them on their pad, because they will heavy attack you, they will knock you off. Do not get knocked off, make sure you block. Now, what you need to do here is make sure that each individual person hits specific targets in order of which ones the beams are hitting. Now remember, the first tank is hitting 1, 2, and 3. The second is hitting 4, 5, and 6. And the healer is hitting 7 and 8. Only when the target has a beam on it is it weakened, and only then can you do damage to it enough to get rid of it. If you try and nuke it before then, you're not going to do enough damage. They've got a lot of health. So what you need to do is focus the primary targets that you're assigned. Now this may look a little bit out there. However, the leader isn't necessarily the one that needs to study this. Each person who is assigned each pad needs to know what they have to do. So for myself, my first target is on me. So I can start hitting this quite early. As soon as the beam is on it, my dots are going to start really kicking off. And the 2 people from my left and right should also focus this target. Then the next target will be to my left, so I go on to that one. Don't leave the pad. And then the next one will be on to the further left, but I can't reach that one, so the one on my right will then be coming round. So for me, I hit number 1 first, then I hit the one on my left, then I hit the one on my right. For the person to my left, they hit mine first, then theirs, then the one to their left. And as you can see here, all the numbers assigned to each pad tell you which ones you should hit in which order, so long as the beams are done correctly. While this is happening, focus the ones that have got a beam on it based on the order of targets you're supposed to hit. The tanks and healer must pay attention to which order they beam in. And also be aware that any bubbles or anything like that in the middle are very, very dangerous. So try not to do that as the other healer, because if you throw out synergies or purifiers or anything like that, it will distract them and prevent them from getting a beam. So the ones that are casting the beams, try and stay as far to the edge of the circle in the middle as you can to be sure that you don't overlap synergies and hit the wrong one. It looks more complicated than it is, but once you all know which one you're supposed to hit in which order and you do this successfully, it's kind of like a little dance. It's one of those things that looks really complex and can fail miserably multiple times, but once you've got it and you nail it, it feels absolutely amazing. It's very, very cool. Once this is over and you successfully kill all of the enemies, of course the fight starts from the very beginning and you start from pad 1 again. They're all clear. But If you fail, or if any are left alive, they will run around and start one-shotting people. So it's almost a wipe. You can sometimes survive, but not so much. Now, bear in mind, of course, this lunar phase is based on a timer, so you haven't got much room for error, so don't mess this up. If the Hulk is still alive by the time pad 8 is finished, by the way, you can beam him to start with and get him down, but I highly recommend you nuke him as fast as possible. Take all damage off the boss, hold the Hulk to one side, get rid of him before Lunar starts, and that will save you a lot of hassle. Okay, now that you've seen all of the mechanics, including what happens in hard mode, it's a very small variation, but it does actually hurt quite a bit. Also, one thing to consider, the blue circle in the middle does throw out little popcorn effects. I did forget that one. Make sure you don't stay too close to the middle because they really, really hurt. Keep the heals up. But now that we've seen all of the mechanics individually, I'm going to show you a straight through run on the regular vet version, and I'm going to explain along the way what we're actually doing as a group. So first of all, of course, as much damage as possible on the first pad, but remember, do not touch it. It goes blue when he lands. Every time he jumps up really high and lands, he will turn a pad blue. The next one will be gold, starting with this one. He will stun the tank as soon as he comes in, so the tank does need to break free quite quickly, turn it away from the group, and we can just basically stack and burn without touching the pad. When he puts his wings up like this and he's laughing, he's doing a machine gun, the tank does need to protect themselves. Many, many heals incoming, absorb magicka, all that kind of stuff. Make sure that you've got plenty of projectile absorption type abilities. Stay with the boss until the pad goes blue as a DPS just to get the extra damage on it, and in the meantime the tank has already moved to the next pad to position themselves, while the off tank has grabbed the Hulk from the middle, which comes every 2 pads, to position that as well. As you saw then, he jumped up and flapped his wings. You must block that, otherwise you're going to go backwards, land in the blue stuff, and you're going to die. Get a bomb on you at this stage, try and stay away from the group or put yourself near the wall where it will blow up. But anywhere from here onwards, so pad 3 basically, any bombs that need to go off, keep still. If you are the one with the bomb under your feet, as you can see now, Firefly's got one under him, he's not moving, I'm not in range of it, it's not going to hurt, it will be fine. So that blows up, goes off, we're safe. In the meantime, meteors are going off. Of course, we've got 2 kiters at the back running away. You can use 3 if you want, and then they come back into the group again, while the rest of us stay still. We just take the meteors that we're being hit with. Remember, you need to kill that Hulk. If it does 2 big smashes on the tank, the other tank needs to take it off them, and vice versa. Be sure that you interrupt that Hulk every time he squats, otherwise he's going to stun everyone in the group. Just remember, of course, this pad is very important, because on hard mode, every single runner pad, so pad 3, 5, and 7, you will be presented with 1 assassin to fight every single time 2 shadows at the back are killed. If you don't kill all the shadows at the back, by the way, and they sink, you will die. This is a burn pad, essentially. As you can see, our formation is very, very strict. We're all staying completely still. I've got a bomb there. I don't need to move. Let it go off. Anyone close by can block it, or just stay away. We don't need to change our formation. The only thing you do have to remember, of course, is once that goes off, you do have to break free. He's gone blue. The tank is already on pad 4. There's a new Hulk, because they come every even pad, every 2, 4, 6, and 8. Again, focus the Hulk, be sure to interrupt it, and above all, the first thing you should be doing is getting into your position. Formation is key. There are no more bombs now until later, but we do need to make sure we're in position because it really helps when it comes to the healing on the next pad. Now, we have gone for a bit of a burn on this one, so you can decide whether you want to have runners on this one or no runners. It's entirely up to you. If you go no runners, obviously you're going to have more damage, but it's really, really risky. If you do have runners, of course, it's much safer and you're not likely to get sucked into the floor should your damage be too low. As you can see, we're getting tethers coming into the group now, so we're just making sure that above all, we're keeping up as much mitigation and heals as possible. Doesn't matter how fast you kill this, as long as your runners are out, obviously. But if you are going for the burn, just be aware you are going to need to keep your heals up. Make sure your kiters are still kiting the meteors. Make sure your stamina DPS are using a vigor every 10 seconds to help keep up those passive heals. It's very, very beneficial. Vigor is much, much stronger than it ever was. In this respect, is really, really handy. Keep buffs up. Keep mitigation bonuses coming, keep those heals coming, and you won't have to run around with the tethers. However, if you do feel like your group is ultra squishy and you can't manage that and it's just not in your area of expertise, then of course you can just kite that tether out of the room, let it separate from you and stay away from it till it disappears. The choice, however, is yours. Remember, every time he does that jump, you must block. Now, execute is around the 13 to 12% phase, and when this happens, this is incredibly important. He will go into the middle and he'll have massive resistances, and each pad is now blue with an orb on it in order, starting with pad 1. Our 2 tanks and 2 healers have gone to pick them up. Now, Miles has picked up number 1 and coming back to the group. He is cursed, so he must stay away from the group. Tank 2, Fire has picked up another one, and then we've got our healers picking them up as well. If you're cursed, don't touch a pad because you'll die. If you're not, you're fine, but you must get off it quickly. In the meantime, each one will reduce his resistances, making it easier to kill him, but we will get bombs, we will get large AoEs, we will get tethers. You've got to keep your heals up. As you can see, our frontal melee there was all in a nice semicircle at the front, so we don't leave the heals. The orbs must be picked up in order to reduce his resistances. If they're not all picked up by the time number 8 appears, he's going to blow up the room and you're all dead. So it is a DPS check of sorts, but you don't need a massive amount to achieve this. You just need to be alive and make sure you pick up those orbs to debuff him. Otherwise, he just won't take enough damage. So hopefully that helped. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. There are a lot of mechanics. It's very simple once you understand it, as with everything, but at first glance it can look very, very intimidating. Believe it or not, Rakkhat is actually easier than the twins, but it will involve your group's ability to coordinate, and be sure that you've got a couple of people calling mechanics, but not too many. If everyone's shouting over top of each other, it's never going to work. Focus, relax, follow the mechanics to the death. If, by the way, at execute, he's doing a machine gun around sort of 13-12% and he hasn't gone to the middle yet, that's your window of opportunity. That's when you want to drop all your ultimates, because he'll have less health when he gets to the middle, which means he won't be debuffed for quite as long, or buffed rather, for quite as long. Anyway, again, hopefully that helped. There will be a written guide alongside this as well coming up very shortly, so enjoy, and hopefully you will be able to nail this very, very soon. Once again, of course, thank you all very, very much for watching. I hugely appreciate the support, and if you are not subscribed on YouTube, please do hit that button. It is free. Furthermore, if you want to help support outside the channel, there are some links in the info section for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, and of course the website xynodegaming.com, where all the written guides are as well. So, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.